Aging is an art. Your future deserves a blueprint. Welcome to Graceful Aging by Design.
After years of serving the community through our real estate business, we witnessed a recurring challenge many of our senior friends and their families were unprepared for. The complexity of aging and the emotional stress that comes with downsizing a family home or the overwhelming medical zoo that our healthcare system that we experience in our healthcare system. So we saw that without a plan, grace and dignity can be easily lost in a crisis.
So we know that life-altering moments usually arrive in a flash, to sudden illness or a split-second accident, but sometimes change is a slow process, making it impossible to plan, to pin down the exact moment the world shifted. It's only when we look back that the clues become clear. Today, we're talking about one of the most crucial issues our society, our world is facing, dementia. So this is a slow burn. Yet, even without warning, a few of us are truly understand, prepared for what's coming to you. So I'm sharing with you some statistics. That's the resources from Alzheimer Society of Canada. As of January 21st, 2025, that's from last year, we estimate that 771,000, almost 772,000 people in Canada currently living with dementia. And every day, more than 414 people in Canada developing dementia, that's every day, and more than 70 per hour. So worldwide, in 2021, 57 million people have dementia worldwide. And every year, there are more than 10 million cases. Therefore, we have honored to have our specialist today to talk about the dementia.
Okay. So today we're actually happy. Thank you for coming, Karen. We've got Karen Tyrell here, who is a speaker, author, educator, and she's the founder of Personalized Dementia Solutions. So welcome, Karen Tyrell. And she's here to talk to us more about understanding what dementia is and what we can do about dementia. So Karen, let me just get started. When people get dementia or their families are dealing with someone with dementia, maybe explain a little bit about what is dementia, and is it part of a normal aging process, or how do we define the memory loss we might experience as we age with someone who's diagnosed with dementia?
So this has been my passion now for 30 years. I've been submerged into this world of dementia care. It is heartbreaking to see families go down this path. We have a lot of people aging, and that's contributing to the numbers of people being diagnosed with dementia around the world. Age is unfortunately, our biggest risk factor for developing dementia. And there's a lot more families who are coming forward and talking about it now, because years ago, people didn't want to talk about dementia. It was an embarrassment of their family, and they didn't want people to know. But I'm so happy the awareness is out there, and more people are communicating on this topic. So thank you for having me here to do this today. The big challenge people have is deciding or trying to understand what is dementia and how does it differ from Alzheimer's disease. So let me first start by saying dementia is not a disease. And a lot of people think that. They think dementia itself is a disease. But according to the World Health Organization, dementia is known as a syndrome. And so let's look deeper into what is a syndrome. A syndrome is a group of symptoms. When they come together, then an individual starts to experience what we call the symptoms of dementia. So I'll explain the symptoms, but just wanted you to be aware that it's not supposed to be a normal part of biological aging, according to the World Health Organization. And what happens is over time, our brain cells do change. There is death of brain cells, unfortunately, inside the brain. It depends on different areas. And we are going to see cognitive changes. And those cognitive changes, and I'm just going to give 5 of the common symptoms that families can look for, families can be aware of, is poor memory. Is the very first one I want to explain, because that's the one that we usually hear, when somebody's forgetful. There's the jokes out there that people say, oh, we must be getting Alzheimer's disease. But memory loss doesn't only affect Alzheimer's disease. There's a variety of different conditions. And so I'll just continue. Poor memory. And this can be short-term memories as well as long-term memories. And examples of that would be repeating the question over and over again, asking something they've already asked before, or forgetting what they did the morning or on the weekend, what they did and they can't recall. Those are just some examples. The next symptom is poor thinking. So difficulties with abstract thinking, or difficulties just trying to problem solve or figure out, how do I get here to the nearest grocery store? Is it that way? That way? Trying to remember, because the thinking does become impaired, even to the point of not knowing where to put water into the coffee machine, or how to think through how to get my laundry sorted and done properly. A variety of things can happen with thinking impairment. There's also judgment impairment. And this is where people don't realize earlier on, sometimes we see people doing the strangest things, and it's relating to damage in the region of the brain that is responsible for making good judgment calls. Poor judgment can be examples of unsafe practices. People wanting to still trim their hedges or clear their gutters of their home, but they've had injury or they've had a hip replacement, and this is not a good idea for them to be on a ladder. And they're wanting to do these things that are unsafe. Or maybe saying things in the public at a restaurant and making rude or inappropriate comments to maybe their waitress, or talking about somebody who just walked by in earshot very loudly, which most people would say, well, if we're going to talk about that person, we kind of want to be quiet about it. But these are some examples of families noticing that that's not normal for our loved one. But also personalities do change. And so that's another sure sign. If they were always easygoing, relaxed, wanting to go out and be around people and go golf and shopping or whatever it might be, and now they don't want to do that anymore, and now they're very anxious and they were really calm before, or now they're more aggressive with their tone of voice when they never used to be. When there's some changes in their personalities, then again, families are starting to say that something's not right. The last symptom I want to talk about is communication challenges. People will start to show difficulties making proper sentences, trying to explain themselves, or difficulties with word finding. But by the way, we all have that challenge. That's something normal. But what's not normal is if I asked you to give me that glass, but I said, can you give me the engine? I want the engine. Using a very different word to describe what they're trying to communicate to you. So communication can also be, and reminding people that we think it might be hearing loss. Now, that's a whole other topic, because hearing loss can bring on some symptoms of dementia, and it can be a challenge for somebody not comprehending you. But there are times, even if there was no hearing loss, a person may still sit there and not continue to do what you've instructed them to do because they can't comprehend it. It's the comprehension, not the hearing of your instructions. So when we see all these symptoms of dementia coming together for an individual on a regular basis, because I just want to remind everybody, there's days we have poor memory, poor thinking, poor judgment, communication problems, and their personality is a little different that day. But when we see it consistently, that's when we say, let's go and get this looked at, because these are the common symptoms of dementia. And so dementia is a syndrome, a group of symptoms. Okay, so I hope that helps. We want to then encourage people to get a good workup from their doctor.
Sure, that's very helpful. I think we always have a family with a first hand to witness and to really observe and notice. I think the most important thing is aware that your family, your loved ones changing.
Yes.
And then what's that's causing the changes, we may want to seriously think about, is it dementia related or it's not dementia related, but it doesn't matter if you are suspected or not, go and check it out. I think that's the most important thing.
That's the best thing to do. And the reason why I say that is because there are times people are showing those symptoms of dementia, but it's not necessarily due to a non-curable type of dementia. So there's many types of dementia, so we can discuss that. But I just want people to realize if we start to see symptoms, I'd rather people not say, oh yeah, grandma's getting forgetful, she might be getting old timers disease. And they make those jokes, but it's oftentimes, unfortunately, people don't realize it could be related to a thyroid condition. It could be related to a vitamin B12 deficiency. And these are very simple fixes. We just need to get that B12 levels back to the right amount for that individual. So getting blood work done, doing things like a thyroid check, a vitamin deficiency check, even things like potassium levels, magnesium levels, calcium, sodium. If those are low, we might start to show symptoms that look like dementia, like a progressive, non-curable type of dementia, but it is treatable. So there's some people that are afraid to go to the doctor because they think maybe this is happening to me and I just don't want to know. But it's often cases where it might not be. And there's many other types of conditions that bring on symptoms of dementia, even Lyme disease, even when people mix their medications, that can be bringing on these symptoms.
Yes.
And so we can look into fixing some things about our life that may be contributing to those symptoms. But sadly, there are a number of diseases and conditions that are non-curable at this time. And Alzheimer's disease, unfortunately, is the very top. It's the most common. About 64% of all types of dementia is related to Alzheimer's disease.
And the things we touched a little bit, and we know that Alzheimer's is, like you mentioned, is the one big part of dementia. So can you elaborate more, like what different type of dementia and what's how each of them progress?
So all of them have similarities because they have the symptoms of dementia inside. So think of it like Alzheimer's disease has its own types of symptoms, but also it has the symptoms of dementia. Okay? So just like Parkinson's disease, an individual may have Parkinson's disease, and we know that there's tremors, there is stooped body, there's shuffling of their feet, and mask face. These are all symptoms of Parkinson's. But that disease could later on, not everybody, but has potential to also develop the symptoms of dementia: poor memory, poor thinking, poor judgment, communication problems, and personality changes. So there's going to be, like I said, Alzheimer's disease is the most common. It progresses very slowly. Very slowly. So I like to use the demonstration where it's just gently going downward because of the brain cells that are dying slowly. Almost like a little virus that's attacking the brain, and it's just moving and it has a little pattern to it. And we sort of know with Alzheimer's what section of the brain is being affected now as the different stages. We call them different stages. There are different types of dementia, like vascular dementia, for example. And this one is because of mini strokes that happen in the brain. So it could start here as a mini stroke or in the communication region, and then maybe over in the motor part of the brain, and maybe, in the different regions of the brain. So we look at it like the person is functioning, but then there's a little drop. And then they can still function. And then there's another little drop. But they can still function. And those regions might have difficulty repairing. And so therefore, it's just going to continue to decline. So we don't know. That one is going to show up very differently for different people, depending on where the mini stroke started.
So that sounds like sometimes depends on how frequent the mini stroke happens. It may seem like Alzheimer's.
How frequent and how major. Because we can have a mini, and then we have a little bit bigger, and And then there's massive strokes that puts that person more at risk for a massive stroke, which we normally see a part of the body that has lost the ability to function physically.
So then this drives home what you spoke about earlier, which is to see a doctor as soon as you start seeing the different types of symptoms. It doesn't have to be all 5. It may be 3 out of 5 or what have you. You need to get it checked out. Yeah.
And then there's other types of dementia that are common as well. And Lewy body was, when I first started in my career, it was not talked about as much. Now it seems a lot of the clients that I'm meeting with are developing the Lewy body type of dementia. And that one is very similar to like Parkinson's. So you're going to have the Parkinson's symptoms, but you'll also have the cognitive impairment, like the dementia symptoms of poor thinking, poor judgment, communication problems. But with that one, there's also an added component, which is very challenging for families to deal with. It's the psychoses, where now they're hallucinating and they think that there's bugs on the table, or there's children in the bathroom that I can see them playing, or a cat is in our home. And these things are very distressing for not only the individual, but it can be very distressing for the families to have to deal with Lewy body dementia, with those 3 pillars. So there's a different way to treat Lewy body compared to how we treat somebody with vascular dementia, compared to how we treat somebody with Parkinson's. Yeah. There's a variety of different ways of treating. So you're right, we need to get a diagnosis as the best first step.
And I believe there are also we kind of talk about one type is like frontotemporal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's damage in the frontal region of the brain. The temporal sides and the executive function is the main area of the brain that is affected. Not always do we see people with frontotemporal dementia with memory impairment. Not always. It just depends on the regions of the brain. There's again strategies on how we support each individual. There's strategies on how we support somebody with Alzheimer's disease who goes back in time and thinks they need to get home to their mom and dad. Okay? And there's ways we communicate that. That's a whole other topic. How we support families on that journey, how we support those that are dealing with frontotemporal, how we support families with dealing with Lewy body dementia. But the types of diagnostic tools they use for any type of dementia would be doing blood work to rule out some things in the blood, maybe some liver functioning tests as well as a CT scan could also show some scar tissue in the brain that's related to vascular dementia. There's MRIs. There's PET scans. There's even lumbar puncture. They kind of get the cerebral fluid tested. There's a variety of different things. And a doctor or being referred to a specialist would help making these diagnoses as best as possible. But to know, sometimes we have to go back to the doctor every 6 months or every 3 months or every year, whatever they recommend, to then see the difference. Like, let's do another scan and let's compare, or let's do another blood work and let's compare. How are you feeling now? Let's compare. So the comparison will also help to try to come up with a probable diagnosis for the individual. And
so just helping, like say, if I help my loved one, I always suspect that he or she have dementia. But so how should we start that conversation with the family doctor? Because usually they need a referral. Yeah, I believe so.
A lot of times families will say it's driving. We notice there's accidents happening with driving. Many fender benders, as well as a person telling their family, I didn't know where I was today. I had a moment of uncertainty. I didn't know where I had to go. And and I'm fine now. So those things can happen. And those are times when, okay, that is, concerning, but also asking the same question. So if I said, what time are we supposed to meet today? Is it morning or afternoon? And you tell me we're supposed to meet in the afternoon. And then 10 minutes later, so are we meeting in the morning or afternoon? And then maybe 3 hours later, are we meeting in the morning or afternoon? And then that is again one of those red flags. Like maybe there's something going on here. So the fender benders, the short-term memory issues, their personality, as I mentioned, if they're not themselves, they're very different, more moody. Unfortunately, that's another sign that people don't realize at the beginning because it wasn't memory impairment.
Yeah.
It was their mood, and the mood and their personality is signaling to the family something's not right, but people miss that. So that's even at workplaces, people being diagnosed young with young onset symptoms. They don't realize at work they're doing some strange things, but people are not suspecting early onset because it's often not necessarily about memory impairment. It's the personality change.
So since we touch about like workspace, do you see like the trend of having dementia getting younger and younger?
Sometimes, yes. And I've noticed, but I don't have the exact statistics on this, but when people have told me it was in the family, it was, grandma and my mom, and then now that individual is showing signs early, I've noticed it's when it's in the family. That's why it's earlier on. But again, I'm not the researcher on this, but I've noticed this with my clients.
So you touched a little bit on strategies. So what is the mindset that families and caregivers should have when they're noticing that their loved one has dementia symptoms? And is that the kind of strategy that you help families with?
Well, yes, I would help families to have those conversations. Now, there's going to be two camps here. So there's going to be those that will realize they've been forgetful. They're going to realize that they have been making mistakes and having these fender benders and having difficulties. They're going to know something's not right. And families can approach it in a kind way. How are you feeling? Are you noticing things? We're noticing things too, and we're just worried about you. Maybe we should just go get blood work done. And that kind of conversation to guide them gently to go and see, because there are things that, and I really like to emphasize, it could be a vitamin B12 deficiency. Let's just go check it out. And everybody over the age of, we can pick a number that they're, let's say if they're 70, we'll say over the age of 70 should maybe look into this. And so that they're not singled out to be like, you've got a problem, go get it fixed.
Right.
We want to make it look like, it's just general things, let's go see. But the other camp are those that might be affected by a condition known as anosognosia. Anosognosia is the condition where the individual has no ability to be aware of their deficits, their illness, their incapabilities anymore. They think they're doing just fine. The brain is not telling them they're making mistakes. Oh, they had a fender bender? No, that was somebody else that hit me. It wasn't me, because they also have poor memory.
Right.
Or they're saying, I can cook on my own. I don't need anybody helping me. But people come into the house and they see that there's nothing been touched. There's food in the fridge that has gone spoiled. They're not paying attention to these things, and they're not washing clothes. The house is a mess, but they don't want any help. They're refusing help, and because they think they're still fine. And so that is anosognosia, and the majority of my clients that I work with are dealing with anosognosia because there has to be special strategies in order to help these families to guide their loved one who is refusing help because they don't think they need it. So that's going to be a challenge to get those people to the doctor. But again, we try things like, the doctor called today. It's time for your checkup. Even though the family was the ones that behind the scenes contacted the doctor to say, you know what, I think there's something wrong here. Can you call her or him to make an appointment again?
Right.
Because they're refusing our encouragement, because now there's this battle. You think there's something wrong with me, and there's not. And no, I don't. Yes, I do. And so we don't want that conflict for those families dealing with anosognosia. We will have to do things in a more undercover way to help them get the help and get that safety factor addressed for that person, and that can be challenging.
Well, I think having a starting point of having the conversations, and for the family members and caregivers understanding exactly what we just talked about, what dementia is, what are the different symptoms, at least they can go to their family doctor and have that conversation.
Hopefully the family doctor will be open to this.
Yes.
I've had some clients where the family doctor says, you're not my client, I can't talk to you, I'm not having this conversation at all. But we need to fully understand as a whole healthcare system the challenges with anosognosia. And if we realize this person does have anosognosia, we should almost have a little checkbox like, okay, this is what's happening. They will never come to us for help. They will never think they have problems, but we still need to provide the best care possible as they are changing. And it could be a slow change, it could be a fast change, but the individual still needs support. And I believe it needs to be personalized in the support we provide those individuals. Every person needs personalized support, and that's the name of my company,
Yes,
Personalized Dementia Solutions.
Yeah, it sounds like for the people who provide care, need to be a detective for our families.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and then to really wear small signs and to pick up why does that happen, and have curiosity, why does that happen to my parents, and then maybe we really need to bring the third party or doctors to really look into what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're touching on the main component of my book called Cracking the Dementia Code. And anytime there is either a change in behavior, change in personality, or a change with attitude for an individual, especially behaviors, and that's a big thing what we do at Dementia Solutions, we need to ask why. And that's the big word. That's the best first word I tell people. Any change, why? Is it because now they're affected by delirium, which could be a UTI, a urinary tract infection, or any kind of infection, or it could be pain related that is now causing the person to behave this way. And if they've progressed with their type of dementia, they may not be able to communicate they're in pain. And it's their rib that they fell the other day and didn't tell anybody they broke a rib, and that's causing them pain. So there's always, I believe this, and I hope everyone in dementia care believes this, that there's always a reason for behaviors. There's always a reason for a change in someone's behaviors, and we need to be the detective to uncover the why. And there's a variety of ways I teach that, to get deeper as a good detective to figure out the why. And I joke around about we have to be the detective and gather the facts, like any good detective. And facts, I spell it a little differently, Ph.A.C.T.S. And so we want to gather the facts to figure out why. And once we do that, then we can move on to step 2, which is how are we going to solve this? But we can't come up with the how unless we get personalized with that person as to understanding their why for these behavior changes. Again, it could be PH, physical. I use A to ask the person, we should not be assuming. We should be asking, are you uncomfortable? Are you in pain? Are you hungry? Are you needing the toilet? Really to kind of help pull some information out so that you can get on to the right why. So ask them. C, a lot of people forget this. They forget that the person might be having concerns, worries. We think sometimes, we're caring for them in this care home. They've got everything done for them. What should they be worried about? But they do have worries. So they may be worried if they go backwards in time that they have to pick up their kids from school. So if they're having that worry, and now we know why they're behaving this, why they're trying to wander away, why they're trying to what we call exit seeking. If that's the reason why, then the how would be maybe using what I call therapeutic reasoning to say that the kids have already been picked up from school today, to keep that person calm. But we need to know the why. And so it could be a concern, but it could also be a trigger. Anything could be a trigger. Triggers could be the time of day. Triggers could be what they're looking at, what they hear, what they smell, or how the person with them is interacting. So whether the person had a negative tone, or whether the person was not smiling, the person was rude, or just pulled their plate away from the table quickly, and it made them upset. So now they're triggered, now they're angry. So why? Well, we didn't do that interaction very calmly and appropriately to ask for respect. Can I remove your plate? And so once we figure out the reason why, we can solve that. We can train people to not do those types of approaches in the future. And then S for the whole word F.A.C.T.S is scan your environment. Scan around. Just kind of listen and look. Like, is it too bright? Is it too dark? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too noisy and overstimulating? Or is it too quiet? Is it also too cluttered? You know, these are things, just look at the environment, because the environment might also have a huge impact on the person's behaviors. So all of those, gather the facts, figure out the reason why. It's going to be one of those.
Yes.
Once we know the reason why, then we move on to step 2 and we'll get creative. And I tell people it's time to remove the detective hat and let's put on your creative hat.
That's amazing, Karen. Thank you so much. Actually, our next episode, we will be diving more into the how,
Yes.
so that we can be creative and help the caregivers, the families and caregivers, with different solutions, I guess, in helping their loved ones. Thanks.
So if there's any one thing we can take away from today's conversation, is that dementia is not a single thing, it's a collection of symptoms. And Karen provides us a very good tips using facts to really to put our detective hat and to find out small things that may affect our loved one. And understand that our loved one's brain is physically changing, allow to us to move away from frustration and toward what Karen called the detective mindset. And every difficult behavior is simply an unmet need waiting to be decoded.
So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
And we'll chat next time.
Thank
you,
you so
Karen.
much.
We are grateful for our guest, Karen Tyrell, founder and CEO of Personalized Dementia Solutions, Inc., to join us and share her experience and passion for improving dementia care. Here are your design insights. Dementia isn't a single disease. It's a syndrome, a collection of symptoms that impact how a person navigates their daily life. While memory loss is the most well-known sign, it often also shows up as difficulties in simple problem solving, lapses in judgment, shifts in personality, or newfound challenges in simply holding on a conversation. Recognizing these 5 common symptoms early is the first step in designing a supportive environment. Not all dementia is the same. While Alzheimer's disease is the most common, others, such as vascular or Lewy body dementia, have different causes and symptoms. Getting the right diagnosis will provide guidelines for different approaches to care. And sometimes, dementia-like symptoms are actually reversible, caused by things like infections or vitamin deficiencies. So again, a proper medical diagnosis is vital before assuming the worst. For caretakers, when a loved one may have anosognosia, which means they cannot recognize their own impairment, instead of arguing, we have to become detective and find the why. Using the FACTS framework allows us to look past the behavior to find the root cause, whether it's a physical discomfort or environmental trigger, so we can respond with creativity instead of frustration. You can find more information and support through Alzheimer's Society of Canada or your local branch. Beyond that, you can also find other nonprofit organizations, government websites, and of course, care services is offered at Dementia Solutions. Understanding dementia is about moving from fear to strategy By learning the facts of the disease, you stay in control of the journey. If you have any questions or topic suggestions, reach out in the comment section or email us at gracefulagingbydesign@gmail.com. If you found this information useful, please like and subscribe. It'll help us grow and reach more families who need these resources. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.